I am a woman, a mother, and I'm raising my children in one of the most individualistic countries in the world, Sweden. I was also raised by a single mother in a small Swedish village. And ever since I was young, I've been fascinated by history, especially history of women. And because of that, I know that it hasn't always been this way. For most of human history, women raised children together. We lived in villages where people cared for one another. Children belong in a community, not just to their parents. Birth often happened at home, guided by the wise women of the village. Women who understood herbs, healing, birth, and the rhythm of nature. Some of the cultures I talk about later in the video still hold on to parts of that way of living. So today I want to explore what we may have lost and what we might still be able to learn from it. This is a conversation about womanhood, motherhood, and the village we were never meant to lose. I think my family has always described me as a daydreamer or someone that just likes to be home and sit around and just think or dream or, lay down and just imagining things. Bus was always like this perfect place for me to look out of the window and just think and dream. And one of my biggest dreams has always been to travel. It's not just like drinking fresh coconuts and, swimming in a warm ocean and being on the beach. It is how do people that live in other places on earth, how do they think? How do they live their lives? How do they manage certain situations and certain crises or certain stages in life? I have painted more palm leaves than I can count, just because that has become like a symbol for me to go to different places, and it has been a symbol of this dream. And I never felt like I could talk to anyone about this. I think that is due to several reasons, because meanwhile, all of these dreams and everything, I felt very misplaced. I have always felt like an outsider where I live. I come from a small village and I'm raised by my grandmother, my grandfather, and a single mother. And my grandfather and my grandmother, they died when I was only 10 and 12. So a lot of people left me when I was young. And I think that also gives a child some kind of feeling of not having a place where they belonged. I studied music in school and I was very, very driven and creative. So in 2000, I think it was 2013, I did a fundraising when I was in my second year of high school. I wanted to raise money in order for me to travel. And I wanted to travel as a volunteer. And I know that this is so problematic. Now I know better, of course, with volunteerism, white saviorism concepts, and all of this I understand. The only excuse I have is that I was extremely young, and I was not educated enough in the field. And I think also the more I traveled, the more I also understood how problematic it is. I went to travel for 6 weeks during my summer break, and I went to Kenya the first time, and it changed my life forever. I think it changed my way of living. I was just 18 years old when I arrived completely alone in Kenya, and I met this woman that inspired me so much, and she taught me everything. She taught me about motherhood, womanhood, and the importance of a strong community and how that looks like. This was the start for me. And after my trip to Kenya, I went back to Kenya with my mom and some friends. I went to Greece to help during the refugee crisis. I did work in Italy, then Morocco. I studied human rights in Kiruna in Sweden with an internship in Tanzania. I did my bachelor in peace and development with another internship in Tanzania. And all of my work and studies has brought me back to women's rights. And the very first job I did in Kenya, where I spread awareness together with other women about sexual reproduction health and women's rights. During my travels, I also learned a lot about myself, and especially how I see myself as a woman and as a mother very differently in these different contexts. My first birth I actually experienced when I was in Kenya. There was a woman giving birth, and I just saw the whole community surrounding her and connecting with her and just being there for her. The most humble way I have ever seen. It's not a question of what do you need, what do you this. People just arrived with things that a mother knows a mother needs. Everything that you could possibly need for a child. And also, most importantly, what I would say, for the woman. If the woman needed clothes, if the woman needed washing products, if the woman needed anything that just makes her feel like a woman again, she got it. And people stayed with her for a long time. And when I met my husband, I felt that feeling again. I actually broke down in tears when I had my daughter. I got phone call after phone call after phone call from my husband's family, and they wanted to check on me. They didn't just want to check on my daughter, which is, I think, the most normal thing in Sweden, is that you check up on the child. Like, how is the baby? How's the baby? My Nigerian family, they were considered about how I was feeling, and I was feeling like shit because I had absolutely no one there, you know. And I think with all the best intentions, the absolute most genuine intentions, Swedish people don't want to be interfering when someone has a child. I think that is the biggest misconception that we have in the Western world, in Sweden specifically. It's the privacy around delivery. The normal thing when you have a child in Sweden is that you give the family space, because most people want that. A lot of people want that. They want space and they want to connect with the child by themselves and this and that. But I think we're forgetting the huge part of delivery, and that is the mother here. Because it is very difficult to connect with the child if you are in so much pain. You need to fix food, you need to clean clothes, you need to clean the house. All of these things needs to be fixed. And that was the community that I saw. And in Sweden, we have forgotten that. And I think that the main reason why women don't want to have like their even family or friends like around them is due to this individualism that I have been talking about. Because when you are a person that feels like you have your village, you have your community around you, and you will be there and they will be there no matter what, you don't feel that like you are a burden to people. And I think that for me at least, it has been more heavy to feel like a burden and feel like, is it too much for them? Then to actually feel like, okay, you know what? I really appreciate this. I can relax now. My family's here. My family's this, and I can just be in my own self. That feeling of being a burden takes over, and it's just like, I'd rather just do it alone. It's easier. It's easier if I'm doing it alone. But that is the difference when I was in an African country where the community is much stronger. Being around African women is very easy and very given, because for me, my womanhood taught me independence, hyper independence, I would say. Being strong equals being independent and managing everything by yourself. And that is how I also have identified being a woman for so long, is that I can take care of myself. And it was not until I came in a community of African women that were telling me like, what do you mean? Your partner, your husband should pay for you. And I was just thinking, what do you mean? Like, I need to show that I'm strong, and I need to show that I can do this on my own. And they were the one that taught me how soft femininity works. This coexistence of masculinity and femininity is very clear, and it makes me to garden that community and take care of one another. It does something not only to the society itself, but I also think that it does something to your self-esteem. It does something to your self-conscious. And I think that all of that sadness around traditions and culture in Sweden, and the increased loneliness that is occurring in Sweden, is the cost of all this independence that we are talking about. That you should always manage, you should always be strong. As a social scientist then, I also think that this has a lot to do with how the society is structured. In other countries, maybe you need your community more than you need them in Sweden. Since in Sweden, if you're having problems or anything, you have a government that will protect you, like you have social service, the school system, you have a lot of networks that is not based on family or friends. but there must be some kind of balance there. So coming back to the core, I think that womanhood in the West, we have so much to learn from the Black community when it comes to womanhood and also when it comes to motherhood. I feel sad that I have given birth 2 times and I have not been around a community that thinks like I would say that anything apart from Western and Nordic. There are so many beautiful traditions all around the world when it comes to giving birth. It's something sacred, it's something holy and beautiful, and I think that the West has completely destroyed that. It makes me sad that it took me 2 babies to realize that this system, this way of having kids, it's not the only way, and I definitely don't think that it's the right way, for me at least. Strength has nothing to do with managing everything by yourself, and I think the beauty of, for example, then my mother-in-law and my sister-in-laws, even my brother-in-laws, like checking up on me, as a human and as a woman, is something very, very beautiful. And we haven't always had it this way in Sweden. Sweden has always been very cultural, and I mean, women were called witches in Sweden when we were taking care of each other's birth. We went to midwives in the middle of nowhere to give birth, and it was something sacred. But then we started to, I don't know if you know the Nordic history, but we started to burn witches that was actually doing like natural healing and natural birth and so on. So we had our history, but it has completely broken down as so many things when it comes to culture and tradition in the West. Okay, so now let's get back to me and the 2 big questions then. So if I'm complaining so much about the village and lacking of the village and lacking of support, why do I choose to have many kids? And yeah, in Sweden, 4 kids is considered a lot of kids. I am a dreamer, as I said, and I have always dreamt about having 3, 4 kids. I'm also not gonna stop just because of the circumstances, because I am a person that if I don't like something, if I don't feel comfortable with something, that doesn't mean that I'm not gonna follow my dream. I am extremely driven, so therefore I am definitely going to accomplish what I want to accomplish. With that being said, it's still very difficult being in a situation of wanting to have a big family, but you're doing it alone with your husband. One can also ask, why did I move to Stockholm then? Because Stockholm is also, it's the capital of Sweden. I don't have anyone here. It is full of individuals. I have gone even further from my village. The main reason for that is because we also had things that we wanted to accomplish, me and my husband, that we felt like we couldn't do where we come from, like where we come from in Sweden. It just made it very, okay, what are we going to choose here? And as I mentioned before, I didn't really have a big village there. So for me, I was like, it's absolutely worth it to move to Stockholm. But that also makes it very interesting with this YouTube channel. I strongly believe that the village that I'm trying to create is something that I can also create like this. It doesn't necessarily have to be that I am creating a community here in Stockholm. It can be that I'm creating a community on YouTube with women that are experiencing the same, and we are experiencing motherhood together. And also, I think that it can connect me to people in Stockholm, groups of women that are feeling and experiencing the same. But I think mostly is that I really want to travel. And one of my goals with my YouTube is that I can have the possibility to travel. My biggest passion is to go out in the world and learn from other women how you can handle this big wave in life that is just pushing you forward, which is motherhood, and how women are living around the world, and to connect women together and to see that there are different ways of handling postpartum, delivery, raising children together or raising children alone. How? If I'm gonna summarize the video, I am a big critic when it comes to womanhood in the West, because I think that we are slowly tearing each other or ourselves down. I just want to say also to the women in Sweden, in the West, and all over the world that are feeling alone, that you are not alone. It can be so difficult sometimes, but I know that if you can manage it, I can manage it. And if I can manage it, you can manage it. And I really hope that you can find your own community that is not family, that doesn't have to be the friends that you grew up in. I hope that you will find connections around yourself that will feel like you are fulfilled. And I really, really hope that us women can stop thinking that dependence is something that is ugly and bad, and start to think that dependence is something that is also beautiful. And my last thing would be to say that if you have a friend or a family member that is delivering, you can just show up in a way that is like, I come with food, I come with this, I come with that. Just give them something, show them that you're there. I know that this is gonna mean a lot to them, even if it feels a bit uncomfortable for you. At the end of the day, the person will feel less lonely. Thank you so much for watching the video, and I hope that I got something good out of this, because I really feel so strongly about this that I feel like it's almost difficult to talk about, because I have so much things to say about this, and it's not gonna be the last video I make about this, because this is really a topic that I feel so passionate about. Thank you for watching, and I will see you in the next video.